In time, the Honourable Member for Frankton has the call.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Well, I welcome the Tasmanian budget that was delivered by the Honourable Treasurer on the 11th of June last week. It's a budget that's crafted for tough economic times. We've been facing a write-down in state revenues of $1.5 billion. This is unprecedented, and it's unfortunately a perverse outcome of the global financial crisis. That while the Tasmanian economy has been doing rather well in comparison to the national economy, unfortunately our revenues are tied to the national economy. And so, while Tasmania continues to perform well, while our industries continue to perform well in comparison to other states, we unfortunately experience such a major write-down in revenues. But I think the Treasurer has managed quite well to manage this write-down, because not only has he committed to various principles in the budget, such as the protection of frontline services in education, health and police. He's managed not to have any increases in taxes, fees and charges, other than the normal increases according to the Consumer Price Index, but also continuing with the good economic management of the 12 years of state Labor government. After paying off state debt, despite the write-downs, he has managed the avoidance of net state debt, something that I don't believe the opposition can claim to have done in their budget, and I'll get to that in a minute. But of course, Mr Deputy Speaker, I think you would find it unsurprising that as a government we would welcome our own budget. So don't take my word from it, then take the word of the independent commentators, and I'll go through a few of their comments. The Australian Financial Review, their June 12 editorial, and I think you've heard the Premier mention this several times, for a state whose economy announced to little more than a rounding error on the national accounts, Tasmania is providing an impressive example, Mr Deputy Speaker, of budgeting for austerity to its mainland peers. Dr Bruce Felmingham, the economist in the Sunday Tasmanian, overall this budget is clever and responsible, balancing initiatives and prudence in the toughest financial climate witnessed in 75 years. Saul Estlake, another economist, Tasmania can now share with Western Australia a claim to be presenting the most comprehensive and transparent set of budget papers of any government in Australia. And one of the best pieces, I thought, Mr Deputy Speaker, in your own electorate, the Advocate, Sean Ford wrote, "Whoever would have thought this state government in these tough times would deliver a budget just a little south of brilliant." I'll repeat that, Mr Deputy Speaker, just a little south of brilliant. This is not our words, this is a newspaper commentator. Treasurer Michael Ed has managed to provide serious infrastructure stimulus along with serious savings without ransoming the future. Now that's some of the commentators in the news and economists, but the budget also has been well received by a number of major stakeholders, and I'll go through some of their comments, Mr Deputy Speaker. The Tasmanian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, their chief economist Richard Dowling, said this budget will assist in restoring business confidence in Tasmania so that the economic recovery can occur. Tom Muller, Tasmanian Council of Social Services, described the budget as socially responsible and welcomed its delivery on critical commitments for vital health, education and human services. And I'll quote Mr Muller, he said, "Given the overall fiscal position of the state, the Tasmanian government is to be commended for protecting previous funding commitments." And of course the unions, Tasmania Secretary Simon Cocker in news reports acknowledged it as a financially responsible budget. I think that reference was in Yahoo Finance. And I must say, Mr Deputy Speaker, for a budget to get a tick from the TCCI, Unions Tasmania and TASCOS all at the same time, I think is a rare coup. AEU Tasmanian President Leanne Wright in the Mercury. We are particularly pleased that the government has maintained spending and pleased that schools are quarantined. Tasmania School Principals Association President Robert Banfield, also in the Mercury, said that a quick reading of the budget papers had left him with a feeling of satisfaction. Housing Industry Association welcomed ongoing funding for planning reforms. National Disability Services Tasmania, which the CEO is Margaret Reynolds, she said the Treasurer's budget comments will be appreciated by all those Tasmanians affected by disability in some way and demonstrate the work of those in the disability sector was valued by the state government. And then there was the CEO of the Tasmanian Farmers and Graziers Association, Greg Banfield, on ABC Regional News, and he said that he was pleased with extra funding for quarantined roads, infrastructure and fox eradication. And on the subject of infrastructure, Mr Deputy Speaker, this budget very heavily features some major infrastructure commitments. A record infrastructure spend over the forward estimates of $3.9 billion. Of course, that is combined state and federal funds. But the federal government, of course, have been very quick to respond to the global financial crisis with their stimulus packages, helping to protect jobs and provide economic stimulus in these tough times. One measure that I am particularly pleased with, that's something I'm interested in, having a background in information communications technology, is the National Broadband Network. And what a great thing for Tasmania to be the first state to have the rollout of the broadband network commencing from the 1st of July this year. And there is no way that Tasmania would have been in that position had we not had the foresight, first of all, to lay the optic fibre when the gas pipelines were built, but also to have the foresight to tender for the Tasmanian component of the network. And in fact, I believe that that submission was the only successful tender, Mr Deputy Speaker, from the process to choose a developer to build the network. This broadband network is going to reach 200,000 properties, and an important initiative from the budget, of course, in that network, in our state budget, was the $12.7 million of an equity contribution to Aurora to help get that network moving. Now, let's not forget, Mr Deputy Speaker, that had the Liberals been elected in 2006, and you only have to look at their promises from that election, they would have sold our optic fibre network for a paltry $20 million, which would have then foregone the $500 million of investment that we've managed to extract from the federal government for that network. Now, this budget builds on the Labor government's work to strengthen the economy, and it's only because of a strong economy, such a strong economy in Tasmania, that we're actually in such a strong position to weather the effects of the global financial crisis. But we have various strategies in place in the budget, such as the Tasmanian Innovation Strategy, 10-year infrastructure strategy, Tasmanian Skills Strategy, social inclusion plan, etc., delivering connected up government services. It's important that not only do we budget for austerity, but we also budget for future growth and future productivity. But on the subject of Tasmania's economic progress over the last 12 years, unfortunately the opposition, Mr Deputy Speaker, has been much like, I'm not sure if you've seen the film The Life of Brian, but You may recall the scene where the People's Front of Judea are having a meeting